The Queens of Spice podcast is created for adult audiences only. Our show contains cursing, vulgar content, dark humor, descriptions of sexual acts and desires, and is not suitable for listeners under the age of 18. Some episodes also contain themes which may be triggering for listeners. Please take care of yourself.
I love hookers.
Welcome to the Queens of Spice podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Raga-Raga-Chew. I'm here with my two BFFs, Ash and Jack. Hi, guys.
Hi, Rachel.
Hi.
How are you?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. How are you guys?
Great. I'm so excited. Why are you so wonderful?
I'm excited because we are reading a rock star book today called Unrequited by Julia Wolf. And this book is about a badass female drummer, and I am so fucking excited to be here and talking about it because this woman is what I want to be when I grow up.
Okay. I support you fully.
Thank you.
Oh,
I know,
you used to play the drums. That was fun.
I did. Yeah. That was my high school jam, literally. And didn't go that way. Went to art school instead. Kind of off the rails, but that's fine.
Went to
Kind of.
business school first.
I did. Yeah, I went the complete opposite
I forget
direction.
about that.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I try to as well.
I love that you getting like a career was you going off the rails.
Yeah.
Aspirations to be a drummer went off the rails. Got a job.
Got a job instead, a real one.
What a loser.
Yeah, literally. So speaking of real jobs, my proper Southern Belle mama might disagree, but I say I was born to be a rebel. From the second I got my hands on a pair of drumsticks, my future was sealed. I never fit in anyway, not with my rocker soul and curves that never take a day off. But what's a drummer without a band? Oh, that's right, a cocktail waitress. That is, until the chance of a lifetime falls into my lap. Unrequited needs a drummer, and I happen to have an in with the band. The trouble is, Santiago Garza, Unrequited's broody, scowly bassist, doesn't want me in his band, which is kind of funny considering he was the one who took my heart and stomped all over it 5 years ago. My career is far more important than the hurt feelings, though, so Santiago can suck it up and deal. That's what I'm doing. No matter how many times I remember the feel of his lips on mine, I won't fall for him this time. I'm done being anyone's second choice. So welcome to Unrequited. So we start in on the book with Maeve, who's our main character. She's a proper Southern Belle lady. She did Jack, I don't know if you're, for some reason, I feel like you're more in tune with this than I am. And I don't know why that I get the vibes for this.
Oh, God.
But Maeve's like a Southern Belle, and she did the cotillion lessons. Is that what it's called? You know, they do the etiquette lessons or whatever.
She's becoming a debutante.
Yes, that's exactly it. So that's Maeve. She's like this, Southern Belle. She's got curves for days. She's got the Southern twang and everything, and it helps her out a lot at her job working at this place called Low Bar in New York. It's like a cocktail bar. So the book intros with her working this one night, and there's these frat boys who are one of them's hitting on her really bad, and she's being polite, of course, as one does, and then he just pushes it a little bit further and further, and she turns him down kind of very politely, and of course he pulls out the well, you're just a fat ugly bitch kind of thing, which hilarious.
So who hasn't been there?
Oh my god, it's such a fucking it's such a stereotype at this point too, because it's okay, as soon as you tell a guy you don't like them, it's gonna be you're just a fat ugly bitch, and it's cool, 5 minutes ago though you wanted all over that, so okay.
Particularly when you are chubby too. It's
oh god, yeah.
You had no problem with my fat ass 30 seconds ago until I was
when you
no,
wanted
I'm not
to get
fucking
on
ya.
it.
Yeah, right.
Literally.
And now I said no, and you're you're a whore, a fat whore.
Men are hilarious and not okay.
Are they?
Hilarious in the self-deprecating kind of way where I'm oh, did you mean to say that out loud? Hilarious, that kind of thing.
So not really self-deprecating, but men deprecating Is that a word?
Yes.
Trash.
It is
I
now.
think. Trash is, I think, what you're trying
Trash.
to get
Trash is
there.
the literal translation is trash. Yes, that's thank you.
Just kidding. We love penises.
I do love penises. Sometimes they're attached to men that are okay, and sometimes they're not. So it's kind of tricky.
And sometimes they're made of silicone.
That's
Or
what my mom always
glass.
said. She's like, "There's a reason someone invented silicone." I was like, "Thanks, mom." Also, stop listening to this, mother.
I would fucking die if my mother ever said that to me. Also, she's dead, so she can't anymore. So I think I'm safe.
Okay. I'm glad you got there
think
before I
I'm
did.
safe.
Unless she comes to me in a dream. And then does it count? I don't know.
Uh,
Still, probably
that-
yes. Because I would feel like it was her. Because it would be her voice and her...
All I get pictures like your ghostly mom being like, "Jacqueline, get some silicone."
Where's your dildo?
There's lots of other body safe products as well.
Make
sure you clean it when you're
wash
done.
it.
I love that Jacqueline's brain and my brain both went there.
That's so good. Okay. So, frat boys being assholes. So Maeve gets the bouncer in. What's his name? Leon. He's like super sweet man. Like always looking after Maeve, of course, and making sure she's safe. And so the bouncer comes in and like gets these guys the fuck out of there because they like this one guy is turning into a piece of shit, and she's like, oh, "Okay, time to go." And I believe there's this commentary in there too of like there's like I think 4 or 5 frat boys at this table, and only one of them is being a huge prick. But of course, what are his friends doing? His friends are doing nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, and so like just a little PSA, you got to keep your boys accountable. So if one of them's being a piece of shit and you're not stopping them, guess what?
We hate you too, motherfucker.
Right. So all of them get bounced.
We hate you too. I mean, yeah.
So so then we get this little clip with Maeve and Clive, the bartender. So she's a waitress. She just like delivers drinks and stuff. And so her and Clive are just like having a little.
That is such a rude thing to say. All she does is deliver drinks and stuff. As if waitressing is not a hard job.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I literally just described the frat boys she had to deal with.
I'm only joking. Continue, sorry.
Jacqueline's starting out swinging, man.
I mean, she's getting sassy off the block. I kind of like it.
Sassy.
It's getting sassy.
Gonna eat some bread and get fat and sassy.
Whoa, what?
So her and Clive sit down and have this little chat, and you get this like insight that Clive like kind of has a low-key crush on her, but this is where you get some of the because it's written from Maeve's perspective. You get this notion in her head that this guy doesn't actually know her as an entire person. He knows the persona that she has in a customer service setting, which is her like Southern Belle, very polite, like people-pleasing kind of thing. He has no idea that she's even a drummer. He doesn't know that she likes metal and like hard rock and like that kind of stuff. And so you get this little like, okay, cool. Like obviously, like every other guy on planet Earth, as soon as he finds those things out, he's gonna like leave me or something, or like not like me anymore because he likes this particular version of me, not the entire thing.
Well, he's projecting his preconceived, right?
That's right. And so you get this directly like off the bat of the book that this is like a concern for her. Keep this in the back of your head because it's going to keep coming up. So then Carlos, her boss, like he catches her out back when she's like kind of taking a breath after these stupid frat boys being assholes. He sends her over to VIP because they get really busy. And there's this like, it's interesting because the way that Maeve kind of deals with like the stereotyping, I guess, is very interesting. She talks about how like the VIP section, the gal that works over there, I think her name is Melody. She is like the tall blonde and like skinny and perfect and cheerful and all these things. And like the kind of person that would work in a VIP section at a high-end cocktail bar in New York, if you catch my meaning. And so Maeve kind of has the comment of like, well, obviously I don't get to work VIP that often because I don't fit that stereotype. Of course, VIP people make more tips too. So there's this like disparity already of like, okay, like it always comes down to looks versus ability in these kind of settings. So again, like off the bat, you're getting this kind of insight into kind of how Maeve is is existing in her own skin. So this particular night, she gets assigned to VIP just because they're so busy. And this band comes in. And they order drinks from Melody. And then Maeve is the one to bring them over. And as she's bringing these drinks over, there's this gal who's sitting with this band who like jumps up and starts hugging her because this is Yael, one of her friends from like where she grew up. And this band is called Unrequited, and she knows them all very well. And then you start getting this little backstory, and the book kind of like flip-flops around to like current day, and we're kind of telling this story from like 6 and 5 years ago, basically, of Maeve and Yael and Yael's brother, what's his name, Moses, and Alex and Diego, and so this whole group and Santiago, this group that were playing together in a band when they were like kind of like still in high school, fresh out of high school, and Santiago's a little bit older than them. And so you're getting this backstory of this summer before everyone graduates and moves away and stuff. It's like hanging out with Yael at like poolside at their house because they're from like Richville too. There's that. The band's always around and they're always like kind of hanging out and stuff. And, you know, there's just like some tension going on there. Then Maeve mentions that like she gets Yael's number because, and I should have mentioned too that like Maeve just kind of left the town she grew up in. She just kind of left out of nowhere and didn't say anything. And then like, and as the reader at this point, you don't really know what's going on in the background there. All you know is that like Yael, who was one of her closest friends, like completely lost touch with her and didn't even have her new phone number. And like, so you get this inkling that like some shit went down somewhere and Maeve just kind of bailed. We fast forward to like the next day and Maeve had invited Yael to her gig the next night, basically at this bar. And this is where you meet Haven, who is Maeve's roommate.
Maeve and Haven.
Yeah. So I like the relationship that these two people have is potentially one of the best female relationships I've ever read in a book. Like, do you remember some of the shit, Ash, that they just come up with bullshit? Like they just shit talk all the time about absolutely nothing that makes any sense.
Joining the circus.
Yeah, like they just, when they're like, oh, hey, how was your day? And they're like, oh, I joined the circus and I went off and did this other nonsense. And then the ringmaster showed up and it's just like, they just make up stories about how their day was going that are utter nonsense. And it's just like, I love this relationship they have together. And it's just this ongoing just banter and ridiculousness. And it's kind of lovely and wholesome. And Haven, we find out, was one of the people who she used to work at the same coffee shop as Maeve. So when Maeve left that town, she moved with Haven and they went out to LA. And then Liam, her Haven's brother, came with them at the time too. And so they lived out there for a while and then they end up moving back to like the East Coast, like back to New York. And that's where they are now. And we find like, again, we're getting pieces of the story here. So it will come up again as to why she left LA at some point. Anyway. So she invites Yael to this event. This event is Maeve and Haven and Liam performing with their punk rock band at this bar. You know, we get this sweet intro of like Maeve playing drums and she like sings a song, I think, as well. And just like puts on a really good fucking show. After the show is over, Yael comes over to her and brings her back to the table to be like, hey, like, I brought the guys with me. Come back and have a drink with us. And of course, May she didn't really invite the rest of the band per se, but Yael apparently is just like hanging out with them and brought them along. And at the same time too, I should mention this. So Yael has no idea that May is a drummer. And May has kept this kind of under wraps from most people in her life.
Isn't she in a band with her brother?
Maeve is in a punk rock band with Haven, her roommate, and Liam, Haven's brother.
Okay. I thought it was Yael's brother.
No, so the other band...
Oh, that's Moses.
Yes, so the other band is Unrequited. They're Moses, Alex, Diego, and Santiago. And Yael is like their manager, I guess, or like... I don't know what you'd call her. They didn't give her a title per se.
Yeah, she was just kind of there.
Yeah, she was just kind of there, and then sometimes she wasn't there. So like she just like tags along with the band, I guess.
Band-Aid, they support the band.
Yeah, basically.
So you're saying she doesn't sleep with any of them? Ever?
Well, one of them's her brother, and the other one is the main male character.
And the other two, well,
Well,
I will say that this is book 1 in a 3-book series. And Yael and Alex's book is the 3rd
There
book.
it
So
is.
that's all I'll say about that.
Jacqueline, did you read this book series?
Of course I did. I read them all. No, my notes
Plot
say
twist.
something about
Plot
do I like
twist.
rocks
Rocks.
and
What?
It was in her notes.
it's a song.
May sits down with the band, basically. And
Wait, have you ever played that drinking game though?
which
My
one?
God, surefire way to get hammered.
Where you play the song Roxanne and like so you divide up into 2 groups and one group drinks every time they say Roxanne and then the other group drinks every time they say don't have to turn on the red light, which is the entire song. It just goes back and forth between Roxanne and you're supposed to drink like through the whole word, like so they like drag it out so it's like Roxanne and then you're drinking the whole time and then at the end it's just like back and forth back and forth back and forth. It's fun.
It's a surefire way to get shit faced.
Yeah, you might as well just start chugging. Like, what's the... Okay.
Yeah, but if
Jesus.
you just start chugging then there's not a fun song playing.
There's not a... You can put on any song you want and do that.
I mean, I think it's an excuse to drink as much as you want and say that you're being,
And say the word rocks. Rocks are cool.
it's a game.
It is a game.
It is a game.
I didn't mean to
Okay.
get shit faced. I was playing a game.
I was just playing a game.
I don't have an alcohol problem. I was just playing a game.
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Rude. That just like described my life, Ashton. Nobody plays drinking games, by the way, and I still want to play.
I mean, we used to, but like forever ago.
But nobody
That's fair.
nobody plays with me because they drink responsibly. But I'm still 19 at heart.
I like that you picked the age-appropriate age
Yeah.
of drinking and not the actual age that we were drinking at. Thank you for that. Appreciate that one.
But I mean, we're in Canada,
Okay.
so at least it's like 19 and not 21.
I mean, here's the thing. I live in Quebec, so it's 18 here. So
Oh yeah, I
you
got
know.
shit faced there. That was fun.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
Yeah.
Okay. She sits down with the band, and they're all amped because they're like, what the fuck? We did not know you were a drummer. And I should say, too, I listed the band members in this band, and there's one band member who is missing from this group right now, and that is Diego. Diego is Santiago's brother, and he was formerly the drummer for Unrequited. And so this is where you get this insight that they're trying to fill a position in the band for a new drummer.
Because Diego's off with Dora.
Well, all they say is that Diego left the band. They don't say why. You don't get any insight on it right now. That's all you know.
How can you tell one of us is a parent and the rest aren't?
Why?
Dora. Because Diego is the name of Dora the Explorer's friend.
Oh yeah. And Swiper,
Yeah,
the monkey.
I know.
Yeah, swiper, no swiping.
That's the only one I know. Swipe or no swiping.
Same. Sounds fun though. Okay,
It
hold on.
sounds fun.
What's up?
What Maeve, she's the main
Yeah.
character.
Mhm.
What's her band's name?
The punk rock band? I don't know that they say what their name is.
Okay. And there's only 3 of them in that band. And her roommate and her roommate's brother.
You got it.
And then the other band, at this point, we don't know that she has any connection to these people. No, they went to like school together or whatever.
Yeah, so
They
like
was
the previous night. Yeah, the previous night when they this band came into the bar she works at and she was serving them.
They were the frat
And so-
boys.
They no, they were the people in VIP.
Oh, right. So the
Swing
frat
and
boys
miss.
don't matter.
The frat boys are irrelevant. It was just a fun story.
Frat boys are never irrelevant.
Oh God, they are. When you peak in college, they're irrelevant.
Remember that one book we read? He was a frat guy.
He was a hockey player though, like before a frat boy, so that was a little different.
I would argue that a hockey player might be worse, but anyway.
In that context, he wasn't, but in reality, yes, I agree. Just based on my experience. Okay, so she sits down with the band. They convince her to try out as their new drummer because they're having auditions like in a couple days.
I'd be like, fuck you, bro. I just played a whole set. You just saw me.
Well, it's because they have a label, Jack. Like, they're kind of a big deal, and so they actually have to like interview people to do this. They can't just like hire whoever because the
Fair.
band themselves gets a say in it, but so does their label.
Right.
They're like a
union.
band that actually tours and stuff.
Yeah, they're kind of a big deal.
Okay. And she's like, nah, sorry. I already am in a band with my roommate and her brother, and we love each other. And I'm not going to leave this band for them because I'm not, or for you, because I'm not a fucking asshole. And then the book is over.
Haven and Maeve have had this conversation before about if either of them get an opportunity to like advance their careers, they always go for it. So whatever it does, and whatever it does to their current band or roommate living situation, any of that, they're always supposed to go for it. So in that regard, Maeve does actually try out for the band. So the audition goes well. There's a couple other guys, like you get it from Santiago's perspective. So like you get the other two people that came in or whatever, and they're just like kind of lackluster. And then Maeve comes in, of course, and because this is okay. This is going to sound really weird, but one of the reasons I picked this book was specifically because Maeve blows in and Santiago challenged her to play Bleed by Masuga. And it's one of my favorite songs of all time. And the drums on it are fucking amazing. And the author
She kills
knew
it.
exactly where to hit me with that one. She fucking kills it. Yeah, she totally kills it.
Rachel picked a book based on a not even 30-second excerpt.
It was barely 30 seconds, but yeah, totally.
She was like, this is it. This is beautiful.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, Masuga's like...
You all have picked worse books based on worse things, I'm
Totally
sure.
fair.
So.
Uncle Jake.
So, like, Masuga's, like, math metal is what they call it, where it's, like, it's super complicated, like, rhythms and just melodies and stuff. And it's just, like, I don't know. It's really just complicated metal music, and it makes my brain so fucking happy. And so when she rolls up and plays this song, I'm just like... Oh, I want to be you when I grow up. I'm so happy right now.
When did he challenge her?
During the audition.
So, like, just, like, okay, play it right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they go in and so the way the auditions worked is that they let the drummer play a song of their choice. And then they ask them to play one of their songs, like the band songs. And so she rolls up and she's like, yeah, what do you want me to play? Like, I'll play whatever. And Santiago just like, you know, has a snipe at her. And he's like, I'll play this song by Masuga. And she's like, yeah, okay, let's do it. Because it's like a ridiculous, complicated song. And so basically it's just Santiago trying to be a dickhead to her. And it kind of backfires on him a little bit.
So, are we saying that she did not have a song, like, that she was already prepared to play for them?
Well, they didn't tell her what she had to, like, she prepared their songs, but like this is just another song she knows how to play. So like she would have picked whatever sort of thing.
So, was this a third song, or was this her choice of song and he told her what to play because she asked him?
Oh, yeah, that's what happened. Is that she just rolls up and she's like, yeah, what do you want me to play? I'll play whatever.
Oh, I
And
don't
that's what he
like
picks.
that, but okay.
No, anyway, so
It makes
I'll
him seem
deal-
like a dickhole.
Makes her seem like a dickhole, actually, but
anyway, it was supposed to line up so that it made him look like an asshole, and it did, which was like, check, okay. So then Clark, who is their manager, like the label manager, they kind of have, so like they ask May to step out of the room while they talk about like what they're gonna, like who they're gonna hire and what direction they're gonna go in. And Clark ends up saying some like really shitty stuff about Maeve's appearance specifically.
right, because she's curvy. Right?
And well, not even just that, but also she's a woman and they have a band with 4 guys in it.
Right.
And but yes, also about like her image and how she looks and like how that would reflect on the band. Maeve, of course, like Moses and Murray, Alex Murray, they go by his last name. He like the two of them are just like whoa, like what the fuck, and Santiago doesn't really say anything. But then Maeve is like out in the hallway and overhears this. And she just like comes back in and she's like, all right, cool. Thanks for the opportunity. Like, obviously this is not going to go in the direction that I want it to. So I'm just going to head out. Because after Clark said that shit, she's like, yeah, this is not my vibe. And Santiago is the one that actually like goes after her and convinces her to stick around and to like basically accept the position in the band. You get this little, I don't know. It's interesting because when they voted on if they wanted her in the band or not, and it was because it's always a democracy with these guys, and so Mo and Murray voted to keep her, and Santiago voted not to have her.
Even though he
and that's
convinced her to do it?
Yeah.
So did they vote before
Yes.
that or after?
They voted before that, Jack, because you get this weird back and forth with Santiago where it's almost like I don't know, he's playing too many sides. Because what you need to realize is that his brother Diego, and this is what we don't know as the audience yet, is that his brother wants his brother back in the band, and so his allegiance is to his brother. And so he votes against Maeve for several complicated reasons that we as the reader don't really know just yet, because we're kind of fleshing out this background story that goes on between Diego and, or sorry, the background story that goes on between Diego, Santi, and May. And
Who the fuck's
as well
May?
as what's going on with Maeve.
Oh,
sorry,
Maeve. Oh
they
my God.
they shorten her name to May a bunch.
The main character.
And so
That was
uh,
first
Who the
time
fuck
we
is
called her
this
May.
bitch?
sorry, Jack. I did not mean to throw you for a loop, buddy.
It's okay.
Yeah, so there's like this complicated history that we as the reader don't know yet, but you're kind of like getting little breadcrumbs here and there about it. It gets a little complicated early on when Santiago's making decisions. You're like, that was a bullshit move. Like, why would you do that? And so you're kind of building this, like, as the reader, you're kind of building a resentment towards him early on too. And you're like, okay, cool. I should be mad at this guy for some reason. Like, I don't know why yet, but I am. So
You're building a resentment. I was just annoyed.
yeah. I was trying to be diplomatic, Ashton. But yes, it's kind of fucking annoying. So then we get a flashback chapter with Maeve and Yael. Baltimore. That's where they live. They lived in Baltimore. Durr.
That's a fucked up city.
You get this in this the beginnings of what Unrequited was before. I can't remember. They had a name about, like, their original name was something
The
about
garage
playing
band.
Garage band.
Because they played in the garage.
Clever.
That's right. And so when they're like moving out of the garage, when they're moving out of the garage eventually, they're like, we should probably come up with a different name. So anyway, we'll get to that shortly. But so we get this flashback about Maeve and Yael hanging out in their youth, like they're in like grade 12 or something. You just get these little like kind of day-to-day things with the like meeting the band in their early days when they're still young and stuff. And just like some interaction there to kind of like build up this big crush that Diego has on Maeve when she's younger too. So there's that going on in the background as well. We jump back to the present day, and Maeve has accepted the position with the band. They're driving down to, like, they're in New York right now, so she has to drive down to Baltimore where the band is based out of. So some stuff gets messed up there, and she ends up having to drive down with Santiago. And so it's like, it's a very interesting dynamic they have at present. We as the reader find out about his brother going to rehab and his backstory with his mom and like his backstory with his dad. And just like, cause his mom passed away when he was really young, and then his dad had like been to jail. And so he's like a big, scary, intimidating dude. And then like, yeah, Diego, you find out about how he is in rehab for like drug use that nobody knew was going on. And so it kind of came out of nowheres. And there's this whole kind of backstory that you're getting with Santiago.
So he's just like telling her this on the car ride from New York.
No, he doesn't say shit, Jack. This is like inner dialogue stuff that the reader gets.
Oh, so this is like his
it,
chapter or whatever?
Yeah, it's from his perspective.
Okay.
Yeah, and so you get a little sussed out about Santi and how it's going, and his like undying allegiance to his brother, which is interesting. And then, so they get their first rehearsal, because now, so that, what they're doing is they're rehearsing for like, I think it's like a month basically, or 2 months. They have to rehearse before they go on their like, their world tour. Because they're doing a big European tour, and then they're doing some shows in North America as well. They rehearse for, gosh, it's a lot of day-to-day stuff here with the rehearsal, and you get all this shit with like Santiago just being weirdly overprotective of Maeve all the time.
So first he's like, allegiance wholly to my brother, and now he's being protective of her?
Well, here's the thing, Jack, is that like, when I'm saying he's playing both sides, I genuinely mean that's what's going on. He has this like, and this will come up again too, like it's a consistent theme throughout this entire book of like Santiago being just like, without thinking, being committed to his brother. Like he just blindly follows that commitment.
He's a walking contradiction.
Oh, he definitely is. And then at the same time, though, he's got this like, massive crush on Maeve, obviously. And so, but he himself is struggling against that, of course.
Obviously. He
Obviously.
doesn't want
because
her to join the band. He doesn't want to drive down with her. He's
Listen,
clearly got the hots for her.
It's like when boys pull your pigtails.
Oh, God. Listen,
We've talked about how that's toxic.
Oh, Jesus. They make fun of you because they like you.
Yeah. Shut the fuck up.
And now I'm into
The worst.
degradation. That's how that works, right?
I made a comment not long ago about how I'd say like easily half of our generation has a praise kink.
Yeah.
I'm like, right. I think they do. Like, I would say every other person I know has a praise kink to some degree. It's very interesting. Then we get, Santiago's dad is like, I love this dude so much.
Every time you say Santi, I hear Santa.
Yeah.
And I'm really struggling not to fucking buckle and die laughing.
Every time
Santa's
I wrote down
dad.
Santi, I wanted to write Santa. So I totally understand that. I'm surprised I didn't make any typos in the sheet to that regard. So Santiago, they go, his dad invited the band out for dinner to his place, which is a normal occurrence apparently because they're in town. And so anyway, they get invited out. And May obviously brings pecan pie, as one does. And I should mention too,
Because she bakes too, Jack.
she bakes, Jack. My God, she bakes.
That's my girl.
So, and what she does too is that she gets up early in the morning. She gets up like 5 o'clock every day, which is not like you.
Nope.
But
Well, yeah.
No, Jacqueline wouldn't have gone to bed yet.
exactly 5 p.m. maybe.
Might be a nap time, 5 a.m.
So she gets up early and she likes to bake, and so she bakes stuff and brings it into the band, and they just like have baked goods every day. Basically, it's wonderful. Like when they're rehearsing.
It's not because she likes to get up early though. She's staying with Yale and
Oh my
she's
God.
sleeping on a fucking blow up mattress that
Yup.
loses air every night, so her back's sore. So she gets up and she bakes because that's what one does.
And I should mention too, Yale is like she's like bringing home a different guy every other night.
Yes,
She's
that's my
chaos.
girl.
She's so chaotic. I love it.
Getting it.
She's getting it all right. Or she's not, as the case may be, because I think one of the comments she makes is that she took this guy home and he got a serious case of whiskey dick and then she kicked him out.
Oh, that's not my girl.
I
Fair.
was waiting for Jacqueline to go, yeah, that's my girl.
Damn it, I should have.
I can add it in post. It's fine.
Damn, that's my girl.
Perfect. I'll bump that back
Insert that wherever you want.
there. Oh, I will.
Don't insert that though, wherever you want. Oh my goodness. Okay.
And there's the clip at the beginning of the podcast. Insert that wherever you want.
Wonderful.
And it was
Thank
nice
you.
to
Appreciate
see
that.
you all. Bye.
Dinner at Santiago's dad's. We learned that Santiago's dad, who's like big, tall, scary, prison tatted guy, very intimidating, but like sweet as pie. And he's married to Alice, who he married. I want to say it's when Santiago
Sweet
was
as
in high school.
pecan pie.
Literally, Jack.
I pictured him as Anger from Inside Out.
I still haven't seen that. It's on my list. I started a list of movies I need to watch, and that's definitely on the list.
You haven't seen the first one, or
I haven't seen. I haven't seen either of them. So Santiago's.
Do
So this is where I should mention. Diego is 24 and Santiago's 30. So like there's a 6-year age gap between them. And I want to say Diego didn't come into Santiago's life until I think Santiago's like 16 or 15 or 16 or something.
Yeah.
And so it ended up being more of like almost a parental connection there with them instead of like brotherly almost, where it's like he always looked after Diego. And because
wanted to
Diego had like
protect
a kind of a, yes, he was very, very protective of him. Santiago's dad married Alice when Santiago was in high school. Like that is like Alice is basically mom to Diego and Santiago, but Santiago doesn't recognize her as like his mother per se, obviously, but she considers those her boys. And so like Alice is like great stepmom basically. And she's very supportive of everything they're doing. So we get this like wonderful dinner. They have pie for dessert, which is as you should. Just really great time. Obviously, Maeve is like, knocks the socks of these guys with, Southern Belle charm, as it were. And you get this little clip with Alice and Santiago where Alice asks, is this the Maeve that Diego wouldn't shut up about for that entire summer? And so you get this like kind of deeper how bad of a crush Diego had on her,
Right.
like back when they were in high school. And it's like you just get this little nugget of it. I think it's almost like every time you get one of these notions that Santiago like almost distanced himself a little bit more, because he's like, right, my brother had this huge crush on her and I need to stay away, and sort of thing. Like, again, with the protectiveness of like, I should not be involved with May ever, and never should have been. And so, yeah, there's like
Martyrdom or martyrdom.
Yeah, literally, that's what it is, I think.
Yeah,
Say
I mean,
that
and it
again?
comes from other things too. He martyrs himself, and it comes like as you get into it, you kind of get the more of the whys of it, because it's more than just like he wants to protect Diego. You learn like Santiago has some stuff he's processing on his own too.
Yeah, well, again, like, this is the back and forth of this where you're getting like the backstory and the current story at the same time. So it's kind of interesting. So and at this point we flash back to Maeve and Santiago playing drums in the garage, and this is where you find out about the secret that Maeve's been keeping from her parents for like years and years and years about playing drums. Like when she was going through her like Southern Belle training stuff, she had to do violin, I think, because it was like the only acceptable instrument to learn. And so she actually bribed her music teacher to teach her drums instead.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, and so like she would go to, like, when she was in high school, she would like play with these like kind of sketchy bands and stuff, and like she would always try to find a way to be playing drums instead of being what her mother wanted her to be, basically. And so this is where you get like she's playing drums in she's playing Diego's drums in the garage at Yale and Moses's house before the band's rehearsal this one particular day. In, I think she's like 17 or 18. Santiago like walks in on her playing, and they end up like start playing together. Like he's playing bass and she's playing drums, and they're just like having a time, basically. And then you also get this like more insight, like in the flashback, of like this big crush that Diego has on Maeve, and how he's like always trying to be in the same place as her, sort of thing. But again, like, she's also still hiding this like being a drummer secret from everyone, so Diego has no idea about that either. Anyways, it's just this like nice little clip when they flash back about like her and Santiago like forming this bond, basically. So then we go back to the present, and to Ash's point about the shitty air mattress Maeve has been sleeping on. She ends up hurting her back, basically, and just like gets really ill, and because she's not sleeping well, and she's really achy from this air mattress.
And she's making too many pies and eating them all.
Pecan pie disorder. It's a perfect disorder to have. And so she's just sick. She's unwell, and she tries to call Yael, I think, but Yael's like out for the counter. She was like drinking really late into the night or something, and so like there's no one to like go get meds for her or anything. So she ends up, or a heating pad, I think she's looking for. And so she ends up like texting the band group chat or something. And Santiago is the one that comes to her rescue, of course. And he's like kind of that asshole in the situation where he's like, you're coming to stay with me on an actual bed. Like, I have a guest room at my house. Like, you're coming to stay there. You're not sleeping on a fucking air mattress. And of course she fights him on it, but he's like, listen, like, you're our drummer. You need to be in good shape in order to do that. You can't be sleeping on this shit mattress. You're coming home with me, and I'm putting you in the guest room. Or sorry, he offers his bedroom, because of course he does, and he stays in the guest room.
Wait, where was she staying before?
At Yale's.
Right.
The gal that likes to get some.
And when Santiago dropped her off at Yale's, he expressed concerns about where she was sleeping, and I believe he even offered to let her stay at his house before, and she was like, know, I'm fine. You know, I've slept on words.
Also, as a people pleaser, I recognize what she's doing there. So yes, I'm quite aware of what's going on. She's like, no, this is perfectly fine. I won't want to bother anyone or put anyone out. This is great. I'll just suffer. And it's like, cool. And then here it is not paying off. So when Santiago takes her home, she gets some rests. She's, I think, asleep for 5 or 6 hours or something. And then she wakes up and goes downstairs and Santiago's making her soup.
I want soup.
So Alice had given him a recipe for soup. And so he's cooking her dinner. And just trying to make her feel better, basically, making sure she's taking her meds and everything. So again, you get this little the grumpy sunshine kind of bullshit going on where Santiago is just murr, angry man, but he's like, okay, I'll look after you though.
Mopey man mope.
Right.
Literally, it's mopey man mope. She ends up feeling better, and then we're getting close to when they're going to start the tour at this point. They're a couple of days out, I think. And Santiago does this thing, which is interesting. He always sticks around after band practice to make sure Maeve has a drive home, and that so she's not at the studio by herself ever.
We like that.
So this one particular night, Yael was supposed to go shopping or take her shopping or something. She was supposed to drive her home or something, and she ends up not being able to. And so Santiago takes her shopping to get clothes, and they go to Hot Topic, obviously, as one does. And she just anyways, it's interesting. She picks up band clothes of other bands, and I think Santiago makes this offhand comment about oh yeah, we toured with that band once or something, and just almost as a slight of oh, you God, you're gonna wear this other band's shirt. Oof, what about us?
You can't wear your own band shirt.
Well, I mean, you can always wear whatever, but I kind of love it whenever I go to a metal show and I see bands wearing other band shirts. I'm like, this is great.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
this. Haven comes to town for a long weekend, and they have a girls' night thing. And basically this is the last hurrah before they go on tour. So she wanted to have Haven come down and hang out. And so they all go out to the bar that night and they go dancing, as one does. It's this interesting tension. And I think Murray is the one that points it out, or sorry, Mo's the one that points it out. Murray gets up and starts dancing with Haven and Maeve on the dance floor, basically to keep sketchy dudes away from them all night, which is lovely.
Yeah, because Murray's always been really handsy with Maeve, in a friendly way.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of one of those moments.
Yeah, but he's also still very protective of her as well, which I appreciate.
Yeah, he's just really comfortable with her, and he that in this moment is used as a means of cock blocking the other dudes.
So this is the other thing too, is that Murray recognizes that Santiago has it hard for May, and so I think it's Mo that points out too, because Santiago's just sitting there seething that Murray is dancing with Maeve in a very provocative way. And so I think Mo was the one that pokes at him, go dance with her then. What's your fucking problem? You're just going to sit here like an asshole all night. And so Santiago eventually does get up and starts dancing with Maeve, and
oh yeah.
and it's, going away, and then he ends up kissing her on the dance floor. And of course they have this moment where they're like, shit, we should not have done that. Everyone just saw that. That was not a good idea. And then they agreed to let's never do that again, sort of thing. And it was heat of the moment kind of thing. So they're like, okay, let's write this off and never do that again.
And then they never did, and the book is over.
The end.
The end.
Then we get a flashback to the band deciding to go on the road. So this is 5 years earlier. This is where they picked the new band name, Unrequited, and they end up going on the road. I think it's Mo's dad. I think he gave them, because they're all trust fund kids, right? Except for Diego and Santiago. He gave them an ultimatum of you need to you have to go back to school in the fall, or you're getting kicked out or whatever. You're getting cut off, basically. And so he's like, fuck it, we're going on the road then. So they buy this shitty van. They get the new band name Unrequited, and they go on the fucking road. And so they're having this last party before everyone leaves for the summer. And you get this scene with Maeve and Santiago where she asks to go on tour with the band because she just can't stay in this town, and her rebel heart, she just wants to, at least be in the scene where she wants to be. You get this Santiago tears her down is what I'll say. He does it in such a way that pisses me off really bad. But he says to her, he says, you can't follow someone else's path just to get away from your mom. Because again, like she's hiding this big secret from her parents and she will not tell anyone. And so she's just trying to like piggyback with these other dudes to like get away from it all. Then she ends up kissing him. He makes the comment that like as he's rejecting her basically because he's, and you kind of, anyway, I don't like the way this turned out, but he, at one point he says like, he just like throws at her like, yeah, you're not really my type. So like, please don't, like, I'm not into you like that. I don't want a relationship with you or any of that stuff. And basically like and you're getting this from her perspective. That's all we kind of learn about it at this point. You have this perspective from Maeve of like being rejected straight up by Santiago. And then because of this, Maeve ends up taking off to LA. She's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to bail on university. Like she ends up getting outed to her parents. I think it's like a YouTube video or something that somebody posted about her playing drums in like this seedy fucking like bar somewhere. And she's like, 18. So she definitely shouldn't be there. So it gets out to her parents that this is going on and they like lose their shit at her and they like threaten to disown her and stuff. And so she's like, well, fuck this shit. She just changed her flight from whatever university she was going to. I think it was like back in Texas to an LA flight. And she just left. So that's the background of where we're at there. And then we jump to the present.
Ooh.
For their first show. I can't remember where it is. It's in Europe somewhere. And
Transylvania.
Transylvania. Nailed it. Thank you, Ash.
I do it again.
So they have the first show. It goes amazingly well. People fucking love Maeve. She does like interviews after the show and they're talking about like female drummers and shit and like the vibes are there. Santiago,
the vibes are there.
The vibes are there. Listen, we love the female drummers. It's wonderful.
They be vibing.
The vibes. They want to hear about them. It's great. Santiago kisses Maeve again, which it's like, bro, you got to chill out. They're on like a tour bus or something together too. And it's just like, you got to stop. Anyway. And one of the trips is to Amsterdam. And of course, Maeve, for the first time in her life, eats like some pot brownie.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And then, cause
that's my
she's
girl.
also walking, and she's walking around with Yale too. And Maeve is like, she's a very nice, kind person. And so there's like some lady standing in a window, like waving, and she waves back at them. And Yale is just like, don't wave at the sex workers. Well, we support the sex workers though. Like you got to be nice to them. Like, bye.
Oh, I would totally
adorable.
do
Hi,
that.
naked lady.
Literally, it's like, hi, naked lady. It's like, I would do the same thing. That's fine. Jack would absolutely do that.
I'd like write a message on my phone and hold it up to her like, I love your lipstick or something like that.
Where did you get it?
Like blowing your breath on the window and like drawing hearts.
Yeah.
I love that visual.
Ooh, cute nails. Did you get those done around here? I'm looking for someone.
Are those press-ons?
Oh my god, it's like making friends with girls in the bathroom at bars.
Only prostitutes.
Yeah, only prostitutes, and it's Amsterdam.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
Tomato.
Potato.
Potato. So there is this convo when they get back. I think it's like the next day or something when they're in the tour bus about Maeve staying on with the band after her contract is over, because her contract is just for this one tour. And then it's been kind of open-ended, like no one has said anything after that. And so Murray and Mo float the idea to her of like, it would be cool if you stayed on after this. And she of course is just like we'll see what happens, like who knows, because she's still getting the vibes that like stuff with Santiago is kind of weird, so she doesn't know if that's like a good thing or a bad thing or whatever it is. And to that point, Santiago later on that evening tells her about Diego and him being in rehab. He's telling her about he was on, because he injured his wrists or something, and he ended up being on pain medication.
Shoulder, I think, wasn't it?
I can't remember. It was something shoulder arm. It was arm related, arm adjacent.
And it was attached to his body.
Somehow, yes. And it was, he was on these pain meds, and he ended up just like going down that rabbit hole of always going to the pain meds and just like being high all the time because of it. It never really took the edge off. And so it always like ended up getting worse and worse and worse. And it was like prescription medication, of course. So like, it's always tied up in that like, oh, it's fine. It's for a prescription. But he's just like, it ends up being an escapism for him.
That whole chestnut.
Yeah, that old chestnut. And so Santiago ends up telling her about that. Because what is a rock star book without somebody being rehabbed? That's just how it is.
Who dies?
Nobody? No one does in this book.
All right.
Spoilers.
Boring.
Jesus.
Is that you, Jesus?
For our sins.
Yeah,
Aw,
so
thanks,
be more-
Jesus.
So definitely go and sin. Because otherwise he died for nothing, and that's rude.
And that's exactly what they do.
The end. So before the next show, Santiago gets a call from Diego. And this is like, so we get this like ongoing conflict with Santiago where he like has this alliance to his brother, and it keeps like throwing a fucking wrench in how he feels. It's very, I don't know. I think it's supposed to be character developy, but it's like just kind of, you just cringe at it because like it's gonna just bite you in the ass eventually. Anyway, so he has this call with Diego, and Diego tells him about like, yeah, he was in rehab and like this is what had happened, because Diego just like up and fucking disappeared and didn't like, he just left a note basically, been like, gone to rehab, peace out. And didn't really tell anyone that he was having problems or troubles. Like he didn't, like there was no indication that he was having a drug
Gone to
problem per se,
rehab.
because like
Peace out.
he just went to get milk one day and didn't come back. And there's this
Daddy,
whole
no.
like Diego, no.
Adventuring with Dora.
He went for an adventure with Dora straight to rehab.
Oh man, I knew Dora was a dirty bitch.
Diego, no swiping.
Yeah, so you get this insight of like Diego was like struggling with this drug issue, and like nobody really called it out for what it was, because like, they're rock stars, they drink and do drugs and that's what they do, but they didn't really like, nobody identified it as a problem per se. And Santiago himself is like, and even Santiago's dad, I think too, like they take a lot of ownership of that, of like, I can't believe we didn't notice, and like, how could you not have noticed? And like Santiago's dad, even to Santiago, it's just like, you were with him every single day, like how did you not know this was going on? And so there's a lot of guilt surrounded there. And again, like the like he has to be the one kind of taking the charge on those things and looking after Diego. And so like when Diego fucks up, it just reflects so poorly on him in his own mind.
Well, his dad's doing it too.
Yeah,
Well,
you're right,
no.
Jack.
Yeah, and it's also like he's murdering himself because he feels like he needs to be responsible for Diego, but then he's also like, this is kind of what I deserve. Like it's almost like he feels like he has to do penance in some respect.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like murdering himself in a different way.
Yeah, it's a little bit complicated, but like, and it's very funny because it feels like we're analyzing it more than it is worth, because in the book,
1,000%.
What?
Because-
I would never.
well, mostly because, and Ash will understand, like obviously you're picking up what I'm putting down, because the book is like, it doesn't read as emotionally involved as what we're giving it credit for, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't like a book I would pick about drug abuse and rehab.
Right, I see.
And admittedly, here's the thing. I will say I read like, I think 4 or 5 Rockstar books before I picked this one. And to your point, I actually bypassed one because it was too heavy and I did not want to read it. And I was not like, it was just, it got me in my feels. And I was like, no, I don't need that right now. I want the one where they play Masuga. So the phone call with Diego right before the show. And then they go on, like, he's like, I got to go get this show to do. And he's like, oh, right, time difference. And so we find out that Diego's like, he was in rehab, and now he's in like kind of halfway house situation where, he's kind of allowed to make phone calls and interact with people and like send notes and stuff to people. So, he mentions that he's going to be in contact, and he obviously the first person he called was Santiago, because he's like, I needed to explain this to you about what was going on, because I just kind of left. And so anyway, you get this like little dialogue between the two of them to kind of suss some of this stuff out. We get this other chapter from like this chapter continues from Santiago, and they're on the stage, and Santiago's like going through in his head about how, you know, how he wrote this song with Diego. Like their big song is called 80 Nights. And 80 Nights was written it was like 2 years ago, I think they put it out, and it's their biggest hit, and it's written about Maeve specifically. And because Diego had started writing it, and then Santiago kind of picked it up and finished it. And it's about like the one summer that Diego and Santiago had spent with Maeve, basically. And so every time like Santiago, like you get this insight of him playing this song up on stage with Maeve as well. And like, he's just like, you get this moment in his head where it's like, oh shit, I'm in trouble. Like he's like singing this song straight to Maeve sort of thing. And it's about her, and it's about how he feels and all this shit. And he gets like in his feels about it specifically. And so it's almost like this breaking thing where it's like, now that he knows Diego is safe, it's okay for him to feel some shit again, potentially. I don't know. Again, I think I'm reading too far into what it is, but
yes,
that's kind of what it felt like. Yeah, definitely. Anyway,
you're applying we're applying way more emotion to this book.
I'm sorry.
This book actually like
it's
warrants.
Basilica. It does it to me. It's just like it made my brain so happy. And I'm like, cool, I'm gonna be so optimistic about this entire book now. Let's go.
I think the difference is too is like when we're talking about it in this setting, it allows an opportunity to maybe add a little bit more meaning or depth to when you're just reading it for the sake of reading it just being like a you know, pretty solid story where it makes you feel good. Like nobody else is gonna sit down and be like, oh yes, the depth of these characters. They're gonna be like, this is cliched as fuck and I'm here for it because
Pulitzer worthy.
This book is like, it's tropes, like it's bleeding tropes at this point.
Oh yeah, for
and
sure.
It's just it's full of cliches, and
mm-hmm.
that's I think why it's a decent read, in that like it's a book that leans into that and carries through. Like you know what you're getting. It's safe.
Yes,
do you know what
absolutely.
I mean?
Yep,
like it's
I do.
Yeah, it's that.
We'll talk about that more in the rating portion too, because I have some follow-up stuff I want to say about that. But you're absolutely correct. It's a very safe book in that regard.
I'm right about a lot of things. Not really.
Do you want to hear that again? Ash, you're so fucking right. Do you know how right you are right now?
You're also a
make you
really,
feel?
really good girl.
Oh, gold star, Ash. You're being so right.
Oh, yeah. Somebody needs to give me a fucking gold star. That's for goddamn sure.
You will get 3 gold stars. That's how happy I am that you are so right.
There's subtext here, guys. There's subtext here.
The text, it's sub. Jesus. So then we get this adorable, amazing scene. It's like the next night it's the next show, whatever it is. And it's Maeve doing her makeup before the show, and Murray like blows in as he does, like just because she has her own dressing room apart from the guys. And so Murray just comes in, and there's like adorable scene where like Murray's again, like he's kind of clingy and he's just very friendly with Maeve, and he's also very considerate of her feelings, I'll say too, because there are some scenes where it's like, I think in this scene in particular, or one of the scenes, he like specifically when he's in the room alone with her, like opens the door so that she doesn't feel like trapped or something with another guy in the room. Like it's like he's, I don't know.
A judge made him do that.
Wow. Wow.
The delivery.
Jacqueline.
Delivery.
I love you so much. Gold star.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
Murray.
Murray's just got
So they-
big brother energy, though.
Here's the thing, though. The actual adorable thing that happens is not that. The actual adorable thing that happens is that they're now in a gang.
Yeah, that's super adorable.
Oh my
so
gosh.
Maeve like draws a little heart on her cheek, like in eyeliner or something. And Murray's like, oh my God, can you draw one on mine too? And so she draws one on his face as well. And then they have this whole conversation about how they're in a gang now because they have matching like tattoos on their face. and their gang is called the Cupid Cryptids.
Oh my god.
It's called the Cupid Crips. And so they like every single night henceforth they draw hearts on each other's cheeks because they're in a gang. And now they have undying love towards each other, and it's wonderful. Then we get a couple nights in a hotel. Like, so the gang's like staying in the hotel for a few nights while they're touring. I can't even remember what. I think they're in France or something. Anyway, of course, because you have to, Maeve ends up watching horror movies with Santiago.
Oh my god.
It turns into like a Netflix and chill kind of situation. They start playing Never Have I Ever and start drinking from the minibar, as one does.
That's my girl.
Yeah, right? And so they end up like, you know how it be when you start playing those kind of games and drinking. So that ends up to them banging for the first time, of course.
Never have I
What?
ever kissed you right now.
Never have I ever been convicted of a. Why are you leaving the door open?
Thanks for that, Ash.
That was great.
Do what I can.
I like how we support each other.
Yeah, I support your madness. I'm here for it. I'm so happy. This is like the highlight of my week. I'm not gonna lie. They end up going up for like her and Santiago the next day end up going for lunch in Madrid.
That sounds romantic as fuck.
It is, and it's a thing. And so she tries to unpack with Santiago about why he's such a piece of shit, which legit. And you get this conversation that jumps back to that last flashback we had, where Santiago rejected her like 5 years earlier, and she's like, "You like were such a fucking asshole to me, and you just turned me down, and I thought you hated me for 5 years. Like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, you're obviously like you have a massive crush on me. I really like you. Like, what is going on?" And you get this background with Santiago where he saw Maeve as throwing away her entire life in order to just have like this little grasp on the industry she wanted to be in. And he knew that she was kind of destined for something greater than that, and he didn't want to hold her back by allowing her to go with them on this tour, on their like summer tour thing, because at the same time they were still like a little band and they hadn't make it big yet or anything, and had like they were trying to, but they were also like, a small band trying to make it.
Just a little band.
They're just little.
Like a
and so he did
mariachi.
La cucaracha, na 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 na. So yeah, so Santiago like didn't want her to throw it all away for them, basically, and that's his excuse for being a fucking asshole. So that's what we have, and I will not agree or disagree with this at this juncture. So then, Maeve is like, she ends up just going shopping or whatever she ends up doing, and
Some girl thing.
some girl shit, or she's like sleeping or taking a shower or something. Anyway,
On her period.
oh Jesus, she's off being on her period somewhere.
Oh my god.
Oh, you said some
As
girl
women do.
shit.
It's the most girl shit you can get.
Waxing her vagina. I don't know.
Who wrote this book? A man?
Oh my god. Anyway, so they end up having this impromptu band meeting without Maeve
Oh
because
shit.
she's off doing
No.
girl shit.
That's rude as fuck.
Well, it's mostly because again they're a democracy, and so they're sussing this out about like, we want Maeve to stay in the band long term, and we want to offer her a contract.
We want
But,
Maeve.
like,
We want Maeve.
Yeah. And so it's basically coming down to like, Mo is like, Santiago, unless you have a really good reason not to have her in the band, like, she's going to be in the band.
I love her, but so does my brother.
Literally, because he's still holding out, because he just talked to Diego too, and he's like still in his mind like, oh, Diego will like still have his spot in the band when he comes back from rehab. So like he still is holding on to this idea that like, oh my god, there's this gal who I'm like head over heels with, but my brother. And so you get this conflict again going on and going forward. And so Santiago doesn't say either way whether he wants her in the band or not at this point, but Mo and Marie make it very clear that they're like, yeah, we have the votes, like 2 out of 3, to keep her in the band, and so that's what's going to happen unless there's a really good reason not to. And so that's where it's at currently. And then we get this interesting conversation between Maeve and Santiago, where she like they're talking about relationship stuff. She brings up at one point this Drew Rossi guy, and this is her ex, and the reason we find out she left LA is because of this guy. When they broke up, she was just like, I'm the fuck out of here. Like, this is bullshit. I'm gone. Because this is what Maeve does, apparently, too. When shit gets bad, she leaves. So pay attention to that one. Part of the problem with Drew Rossi was that Maeve was his dirty little secret. They were dating for a year or something, and they were never, and he's like a famous actor, and they were never seen in public together, and he would never like go public about the relationship. And they like lived together and shit. Like, it was a whole to-do. And so, of course, Maeve moving forward is like, yo, Santiago, like, if we end up being in this relationship thing, like, I won't be a secret. Like, I'm not doing that again. And Santiago, of course, is like, maybe I know exactly what I want. And maybe that is to be in a relationship. And so we're at this point where they're like, they're gonna make it a fish.
Hard launch? Soon,
Jack.
Like a trout?
Exactly like a trout, Ashton.
Okay, just making sure.
And then we get, again, like Haven ends up, they FaceTime a lot, her and Haven. And again, they have this like amazing conversation that is never about guys, which is, again, it passes the test. I love it. It's always about like their profession and what's going on. Oh, it's great. I love it. You so seldom see it in romance novels too. And it's just like when it happens, you're like, yes, you care about each other on an actual emotional level. And it's not about guys. It's perfect. And so Haven calls her, FaceTimes or whatever. And she talks about this commercial that she landed and this other like, there's another thing with Haven, I think, which I'm hoping it comes up in a later book because Haven's a wonderful character. And I want to see more of her. But she has this like sordid history working in the acting industry with this dude who like, anyway, there's a whole story there I won't get into. But basically it stopped her from landing a lot of jobs. And so her landing this commercial is kind of a big deal. And so she's like, getting paid well when it's like real work. And of course they're just talking nonsense to each other the entire time. In addition to this too, which is fucking lovely. And then of course after they hang up, Santiago crawls into bed with Maeve in their like bunk on their tour bus, which is a thing. And they have like some sexy times. I think at one point Maeve is like, God, can you even have like sex in one of these bunks? And Santiago's like, oh yeah, of course you can. It's like, he's
like, yup.
Yup. And you're like, interesting.
Well, we know he wasn't a saint.
And at one point too, because Maeve does call him out on like being photographed with all these women all the time, and because part of Maeve's thing is like the body issue thing, where she's like, I like this is who I am, and I spent a lot of my life being not who I am. Like I won't be diminished, and I won't be less than. I will be exactly who I am, and if you don't like that, like take a hike. And she says this on the heels of him like he's been photographed with all these women before who do not look like Maeve. Who are like the tall, skinny model types. And so she calls him out on that. And he's like, yo, listen, there are certain obligations that I have to fulfill being, a rock star, whatever. And like people get set up on dates all the time. And he's like, you'll also notice that I didn't stick around with any of those people. Like it was just one and done kind of thing.
I only fucking chucked them.
Apparently. Anyway, I don't even know if he does that half the time either. Like a lot of them just sounded like it was like he had to have arm candy
enough to know that you could totally have sex on those bunks.
No, I think it was one of those things where like for the first little while he was like wild and living it up because that's what you're supposed to do, and then he just kind of got tired of it, didn't he?
That kind of what it sounds, because he also is older. Like he's like I think 5 or 6 years older than everyone else in the band, and so like he is like the grandpa of the band almost, where he's like he doesn't go out and party. Like he never goes out and parties, and he doesn't like do drugs, and he like drinks on occasion, but he doesn't get like hammered. But yeah, like he doesn't live the rock star lifestyle. It's not what he's into.
He's mature.
Well, not like Murray, where like Murray's just
or
chasing
Moses
tail all the time. Yeah, and Moses for that matter. And so at this point too, when they're doing the bed cuddle sexy things, he gets this like you get this this phrase from Santi where he says, "I have no desire to rein you in," and so this is like the clincher for Maeve basically of like this guy wants you exactly for the way you are and who you are, and like he's no interest in you being this Southern belle whatever persona you put on. For the public, like he wants you part and parcel. And so then he becomes
her daddy.
her grandpappy.
Her grid. G-paw.
She calls him daddy for the rest of the book.
Yeah.
And
that's my girl.
And that's my girl. Anyway, so now this is her special man friend until the tour is over.
Special man.
That's the phrase they use. Her special man friend, because they're not like boyfriends.
Really?
Yeah, literally, she's special man friend. Until the tour is over. So this is the agreement they decided on. So they're going to be doing naughty things exclusively together until the tour is over, and then they're going to reassess. So at the next stop they make, they have to do this meet and greet with some Hollywood types, and of course, what Hollywood type would show up to this meet and greet just to like fuck with the story? Like, who would it be?
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
God, could you imagine? So her ex Drew Rossi shows up in this meet and greet.
Right.
To a meet and greet after a concert. You get this like inkling that he is trying to get back with Maeve. And it doesn't get fleshed out, I guess, as much as not I would have liked it, but like it doesn't get it almost seems like forced conflict, I think. Because it's like she has to have some conflict somewhere, so it's gotta be this guy.
It's cliched.
It's super cliched. Anyway, he shows up with his co-star for this, like, I think they're in a daytime. No, it's not even daytime. It's like teen television or something where it's like 30-year-olds playing 20-year-olds or whatever it is. One of those shows.
Yeah, like the OC.
Yeah, it's some of that shit.
Da-na-na-na-na, da-na-na-na-na, da-na-na-na-na-na,
California. That'd be a good drinking song too, maybe. We'll have to try it.
We'll try that one. We'll put it on the list.
Is there even a list?
Jack, I have so many lists. Yes, it's on a list somewhere. The next time we all get in the same room together, maybe Christmas, we'll see. So they have this meet and greet. You get this backstory with Maeve about how like she was Drew's girl behind the closed doors, but he was like fake dating his co-star. And like that's who he was seen with in public, and like he kissed her a bunch of times, and like basically like was cheating on Maeve the entire time that they were together with his co-star for the public eye, which is just some fucking bullshit, and that's like nobody needs that. Drew makes a point of like actually having a conversation with Maeve after the show, and she just shuts him right down about like, because he's like, yeah, like it'd be cool to get back together, and they're like trying to take candid photos together and stuff to like build this kind of, I don't know, like publicity thing between the two of them. And she's just like, I'm having none of this bullshit, to the point that she's like, my boyfriend right over there is staring you down, and if I just wave at him, like this conversation will be over, so maybe like we're finished here.
Yeah.
So they carry on, and then show's over, etc. They all go back to their hotel room. Maeve is like angry, frustrated, worked up with this whole thing. There's some hot shower times, of course, with her boyfriend.
Special man friend.
Special man friend. There's this phrase in the back of her head when this chapter's going on about this man looked at me like I felt beautiful, is how she phrases it. And so like just the way, and Jack, you're gonna read about
hey,
this.
Bucket
about how,
Nuts,
like,
why don't you ever make me feel beautiful?
Vicious.
Whoa.
Shots fired.
He said it's a trap.
Wow.
Jacqueline yelling like that
Marriage.
was like some fucking 80s sitcom mom bullshit. I'll tell you that right now.
Jack would make a good 80s sitcom mom.
Bucket
Nuts.
I love it.
Hey, Bucket Nuts. Do I have a smoke in my mouth?
I mean, yeah.
Oh god. Amazing.
You're probably just wearing like a nightgown too, but like one of those like moo style ones with the buttons.
Yes.
Girl.
And the flowers, it's all floral.
That's exactly what I fucking pictured.
You've got
That's what
you've
I'm
got,
wearing
like,
right now.
a shower cap or something, and you're like smoking a cigarette.
No, not a shower cap. It's like to keep her curlers in.
It's my
Oh, like
hair.
a bonnet. It's a bonnet.
It's
Yeah.
a bonnet.
Gosh, where were we? All I got is visuals of like Jack in a floral
have
moo
no
now. This is
idea.
wonderful. I love it.
She felt beautiful.
She felt beautiful.
And
Okay,
Jacqueline
right. Thank you. So
You don't have to rub it in.
no, bucket nuts doesn't make her feel beautiful. That's different.
Yeah.
Fucking bucket nuts. This is where we get into kind of Santiago's sordid youth is how I phrased it, about like he basically he doesn't have like he has a very stacked juvenile record of being a piece of shit. But then after he turned 18, basically he just like cleaned up his act and started, playing music.
He made some bad
and-
choices.
Yeah, he made a lot of really shitty choices. Of which like his dad bailed him out on a lot of them too. But at the same time, I don't think his dad was super strict about it because he's like, I did the same shit and I ended up way worse. So this is fine.
I mean, it's also a lot of learned behavior too, right?
Oh, for sure, for sure. And so you also get this thing where he's like kind of confessing all of his shit to Maeve, almost in an effort to like push her away, I think. I don't know. It's one of those interesting things where it's like, here's the info dump of everything about me that you should dislike. And if you still like me at the end of it, that should be like there's your flags sort of thing. How do you want to play this?
Well, he was throwing himself on his sword. Like,
he definitely was. But then they end up with the I love yous at the end of it, of course. And, know that he's her super special man friend. He put a cape on.
I'm sorry.
What's up?
Who put a cape on?
Oh, sorry. It was a metaphorical cape.
Oh, a metaphorical cape.
I like that you took that as a literal cape. What literal cape did you think somebody just put on?
I don't know, like Superman maybe? Or Batman? Did you say he doesn't have capes? Superman has a cape, doesn't he?
no.
Yeah, doesn't he? Yeah, he does.
It depends on which Superman.
Totally fair. That's fair.
Not all Supermans have capes.
Thank you for that, Ash.
Not all Supermans have capes. I love it.
No capes.
But they all put their suits on one leg at a time.
Okay, so then the tour ends. Santiago has this kind of heart-to-heart with Mo about Maeve and the band and all these things.
I love
because
her.
Well, I mean, here's the thing too, is that Mo and Murray are like, you got it bad for this girl.
Are they like basically just one person, but it calls them two people?
No, Moses and Alex are two different people, but
Well, I mean,
I know,
considering
Mo and
Mo
Marie.
is Yale's sister and
Brother.
Alex clearly puts down the vibes for her, that's just weird.
it's a thing.
Okay, I have another question actually.
What's up, dog?
Are both of their mothers dead?
No. I think the only dead mom in this is Santiago's mother.
And yours, Jack.
Well, who's
yours, yeah.
who's Diego's mother?
She's dead too.
Yeah, technically, I think. So they...
Well, that's what I
You're
just
gonna-
asked.
Yes.
Oh,
sorry.
I thought you meant Maeve and Santiago's.
So, okay, Jack. So here's the story. So Diego is Santiago's dad's son, but the two kids, Santiago and Diego, do not have the same mother. And Diego's mother passed away when Diego was 10, and then he was going to get thrown into the system, but then his mother's boyfriend at the time was like, this kid's not mine, so we'll find out who your dad is, basically, and like send you to your father. And so like they didn't know Diego like really existed until he was 10 years old, and then shows up at his door, and Santiago has this little brother to look after all of a sudden. Like the first 10 years of Diego's life were like living with this drug addict mom, basically, and ended up getting herself killed, like overdosing. And so like this is another reason that Santiago like looks after him so carefully and tries to take care of him, is because like he feels so bad for this kid in his life and then he just like dropped him on his doorstep. And it's interesting because at the same time when Diego came into his life, this is when Santiago cleaned up his act. And so this is when his juvie record got sealed, basically, because like he didn't do any more like heinous shit after that, more or less, because he was like focusing on Diego instead.
Okay, I see. Perfect.
So there's this conversation between Moses and Santiago where Moses calls him out about his brother specifically, because they see how the relationship between him and Maeve developed, and like they want to sign Maeve to the band officially. Santiago is still like, his back against the wall about it. And Mo calls him out with the like, your brother can't be the only person that you're loyal to. And really trying to get him to understand that like, if you don't start treating Maeve the way she should be treated, like you're going to be in hot fucking water very soon. And so we get back to Baltimore and Maeve is staying with Santiago at his place.
I heard Voldemort.
Voldemort. Baltimore.
I get that
Orioles.
now.
I love you.
I had one of those moments
heard
where I
Voldemort.
spaced out for a half a second. I heard Voldemort. And I was like, that's not what she said.
That is absolutely not what I said, but I appreciate the mishap. It's like you had a real life typo. I love that.
I feel like the computer in my brain lagged for half a second.
Your CPU shut off for a minute.
Honest to God, Jacqueline's getting it over her computer. My brain's just doing it for me. Voldemort?
Is that what I sound like to you? Voldemort. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
The fucking Charlie
Yes,
Brown.
ma'am.
The Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
The teachers.
The teacher.
Yes, ma'am. Voldemort.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I love you, ma'am.
So we go back to Baltimore, home of the Baltimore Orioles.
Yes.
Not
And-
Oreos.
You're the best.
Not Oreos. Orioles.
Oreos. I like
Damn
Oreos.
it. Jack's going to get an Oreo milkshake now.
Oh, bucket nuts. I need a
Oh,
milkshake.
you get time. You should just know. It's every time we record, it's a milkshake night.
Right? Damn it.
So they go home to Baltimore, home of the Orioles. They have a lot of day-to-day stuff when they get back to Baltimore. Maeve kind of like stays with Santiago for a while. He does have his own place in New York as well, and then he has his house in Baltimore. And so they are like staying here for now, and then they're going to go back up to New York shortly. Anyway, so they're home for a couple days, and then Maeve like wants to bake something, so they go to the grocery store and get groceries. And Jack, for the record, I think she's baking lemon bars. I think is what it was,
Okay.
Correct.
something like that. Is that okay?
seems
Thank
pretty
you.
Southerner.
I love lemon bars. That shit's deadly good.
I'm not a big fan of lemony desserts because I
Oh.
like sour lemons. Like,
Oh, see, I love sweet lemon and like fake lemon. So good.
sometimes.
Fake lemon, delicious.
Fake lemon's so good. I don't like whatever of all the fake fruit that are out there. Lemon, my favorite.
Fake lemon.
Do you think?
Fake banana.
I do like fake banana.
Do you
Yeah.
like anything real, Rachel?
No. No, I don't think I do.
What about penises?
Wait, are we having the conversation about silicone again? What's going on?
It always circles back to silicone.
It always comes back to silicone.
It does always come back to silicone, doesn't it?
Just like my mama told me.
Just like my mama told me.
Atta girl.
Atta girl. That's my girl.
Jesus.
Ooh.
Okay.
I just, yep.
Oh my gosh.
So we're almost done, guys. Let's do
dead,
it.
I'm dead.
So close. So they're coming back from getting groceries, and they're like half a block away. And who is sitting on Santiago's front doorstep but Diego? So Santiago and Maeve were like holding hands and like chit chat and being cute coupley bullshit. As soon as Santiago sees Diego on his front doorstep, he drops Maeve's hand
Like a hot potato.
like a fucking hot potato.
Uh-oh.
And he goes, of course, he goes up to Diego and is just like, "Oh my god, like you're here, like what's going on, like come in." And they start chit chatting, and Maeve like kind of feels third wheelie at this point, and so she like excuses herself to like the guest room basically, and kind of gives them their space. So then you get this, and this is where you get that story I told you about Jack, about like Diego with his drug use and how he was like feeling every day being more of a burden to the band, and he didn't want to end up like his mother, and so he ended up like just checking himself into rehab and didn't really say anything to anyone because he knew that if he gave anyone a chance to talk him around on it, he wasn't going to do it, and so he just had to go for it. And so he and Santiago kind of stay up late talking about like life stuff and band stuff, and May overhears part of the conversation, and she doesn't hear the entire conversation, which is, problematic, as we know. And so she, in typical Maeve fashion, part of the conversation she hears is not like it sounds like Santiago is offering Diego his spot in the band back. And as the reader, I don't think we know exactly what is said there, but we just get it from Maeve's perspective.
Right. Okay.
And so in typical Maeve fashion, the next day she gets up early, panics, and she leaves. And so she goes straight back to New York. And
what's this? The miscommunication trope?
Yes.
And it's very funny because in my notes, I even have a line that says misunderstanding. And in brackets, it says, "I'm so sorry, Ash." Because I know how much you fucking hate this. And I knew as soon as this was going to be the conflict that was miscommunication, I just cringed so hard.
It's like, haven't these people ever read a book or watched a movie? Like, don't they know what's going to happen?
You can't metagame this kind of thing, Jack. Sorry.
Oh.
It's the whole story. It has to play out.
Okay.
So she sends a text message to Santiago. So she takes the train back basically and leaves, doesn't say anything, whatever. She just sends him a text message that's like, "I'm going back to New York. Like, I'm like not happy with you right now. I will talk to you when I'm done." Like, whatever. And so she turns her phone off basically, and that's that. She has a big reunion with Haven. They go out and have girls' night with Yael, of course. They like the girls' night they have is like kind of man bashing too, because Maeve's in this state now about like, Santiago just like fucking sold me out, had no fucking qualms about it whatsoever, and just like offered Diego back his spot and all this shit. And so it blows up and becomes this whole thing.
Very high school.
It's very high schooly. And of course, like Santiago kind of freaks out, like he's having a bit of a meltdown, rightly so. And then he tells Diego everything as well, about like the band and like how he's in love with Maeve and how he always had a crush on her, even when like Diego had a crush on her when they were when he was in high school, and just like he like just tells him the truth about all of it. And this is the first time Diego even had an inkling that Santiago was interested in Maeve at all. And so like he just dumps it all out because he knows he fucked up. He fucked up real bad. And so now he's getting like the instant karma associated with that. And so also Eli shows up, which is Santiago's dad, and they have a conversation. And Santiago, like, there's this weird thing that Santiago's dad always said to him about like, I can't remember what it was. It had something to do with like rules of dating or whatever it was. And one of them was like, you always go get your girl back unless she told you no. And so like his dad rolls up and be like, "Well, did she tell you no?" And he's like, "Well, no, she didn't. She just wanted space." He's like, "Well, go get your fucking girl back then." And so of course like Santiago gets in the truck and like drives up to New York. And so they sit down and have a conversation. When he gets to when he gets to Haven and Maeve's, he brings donuts and coffee, as one does, especially after they have all been up drinking all fucking night. They like because I want to say like Haven and Yael and Haven's brother go out and like, get breakfast or something and give them space while they sit down and talk. And so Santiago tells her exactly the conversation that he had with Diego, and about that she misunderstood, or she only heard part of the conversation that they were having about, was it audition for his spot again or something, but like he wasn't guaranteed to get it back. And like the band had already voted on keeping Maeve in and all this stuff. So he was like being honest about it. Maeve just, of course she just like heard the parts that have plot. So, and yeah, this is the part where, Santiago kind of justifies some of his actions, because again, like Maeve was like, you fucking like, you just hid me from Diego, which is exactly what you said you wouldn't do. You wouldn't like pretend that we're not together, and you wouldn't like make me feel that way, just like Drew did, where it's like, I'm just I'm just your dirty little secret. And it's like, we're not doing that. And so this is where you get this background about Diego and about his mom and like how he came to be and all this stuff, and about like how Santiago always felt like he had to look after Diego and all this shit. And so you get kind of that backstory as well. And he's trying to justify like his behavior there's like, I want to say they have a call with the band at this point where Santiago straight up is just like, yo, this is my vote. Maeve is in the band and we should offer her that contract. And here are the amendments. She wants the contract, whatever. And it all turns out well because Murray like threatens to like fight Santiago too about like all this bullshit. And it's just, like he always, I think he always comes back to like, we're in a gang, like we're ride or die. Like we're going to be forever together forever sort of thing. And it's adorable. And then of course they do naughty things and we have a happy ending. Now, the epilogue, which I do want to talk about briefly, is their wedding. Like years, it's down the road quite a ways. But part of the background that I didn't really talk about was Maeve's relationship with her parents. So, like, her mom always wanted her to be this, like, perfect Southern belle, just like she was. Her father was just kind of like, yeah, whatever. Like, I don't know, traditional dad figure, not really super involved in Maeve's life, but like, but this is the way things should be sort of thing. Like, Southern, you want to call that bullshit, toxic masculinity crap. So Maeve basically cut them out of her life when she moved to LA and had never spoken to them again at that point. So it's been over 5 years. And by the time the wedding rolls around, I think it's like 6 years plus. Maeve even says, I think at one point to Santiago that like, if they want to be back in my life when I get married or have kids or any of those things, they're welcome back. But this is who I am. And I'm not changing or going back to what they want me to be. That's never going to be a case. And so this epilogue at the wedding, her mother is there, but her father is not. And you get this kind of interesting, and I think her mother shows up with her aunt, so like her mother's sister. And you get this kind of interesting inkling of her mother's acceptance of who she is. And she's just happy that she can be in your life. And I think there's a comment about like, don't worry about your father, I'll deal with him sort of thing. And it's just like, ooh, I love it. So it was just like a nice way to tie it all up to at the end where it's like, you started this book with this kind of insecurity and like my family doesn't really love me for who I am. And then at the end you have this reconciliation with it. It's kind of nice. So Jacqueline.
Your favorite part.
I love you dearly. Would you like to read something for us, please?
I don't know if I should. I slid my hand up my boyfriend's chest and into his beard, smiling. You're the best man I've ever known. Eyes closed, he let his head fall forward. Then he dropped to his knees, just as I had earlier. His lips traveled over my legs and stomach, kissing, nibbling. I stumbled until my back pressed against the wall, and he followed, lifting my leg. At first, I only felt his hot breath against my core. Then he spread me with his fingers, and his tongue took a long slide through my folds. Folds. In an instant, my knees went weak, but Santiago's hands were firm, holding me up and against his mouth. He groaned as he licked me, and I thought maybe I was the best thing he'd ever tasted. His beard was rough against my tender flesh, adding another layer of pleasure. He'd only been between my legs a few minutes, but I was already trembling and tightening. Shaky moans fell from my lips, echoing off the tiled bathroom walls. Oh, Santy, I'm Santy.
Ho, ho, ho.
Oh.
It does seem like Santa. Okay. Oh, Santy, I'm gonna come.
You can do it, Jack. I believe in you.
Ho, ho, Santa.
Oh, Santy, I'm gonna come. My hips rolled, jerked, and his arms wrapped around me, keeping me as steady as he was. In that moment, I was the most desired, cared-for creature in existence. That knowledge and his skilled, dedicated mouth sent me tumbling. I panted his name and almost began to cry again from the powerful wave of pleasure that swept over me. When he got to his feet again, his cock was hard, jutting up and away from his abs. His eyes were both soft and on fire, skimming my wet body. This was the most exposed I'd ever been, standing fully naked under the bright lights of the bathroom. My hands twitched to cover myself, to hide my flaws. But why? He knew who I was, and from the way he looked at me, he really liked who I was. My stomach was only sort of flat when I was on my back, but I couldn't hate it, not when Santiago laid his head there when we were both spent. I had marks from the times I'd bloomed faster than my skin could keep up with, but how could I think they were ugly when Santiago followed them with his tongue, kissing them like maps leading to my pleasure? I wasn't perfect, but when this man looked at me, I felt beautiful. He saw me, all of me, not just my body, but my rebel heart and all my silliness. It wasn't that he liked pieces of me and wished other parts were different. He liked it all, and sometimes that was hard to believe, because it was such a new experience. You looking at me like that kind of takes my breath away, I said. He cocked his head. Funny, I was just thinking you take my breath away. His hand slid over my hips to my ass, and his tongue swept against mine, tasting like a mix of my pleasure and his want for me. I have to get inside you. He cupped the back of my head and kissed me more, pressing his entire erection against my belly. I didn't want to leave the cocoon of the shower yet, and maybe that was a dumb reason for skipping a condom. Oh gosh. But it wasn't my only one. I trusted Santiago, and when he told me I was the only one and he'd been tested recently, I believed him. Turning, I bent slightly at the waist, offering myself to my man. His hands sunk into my waist as his cock sunk into my opening. Matching moans fell from both our throats. The feel of him bare, raw, and deep inside me had my throat catching, my emotions rising. Ah, Maeve, baby, there's no going back from this. He plunged, swiveled, plunged again. You are the fucking pinnacle. I don't know how I got so lucky. I met his eye over my shoulder as I pushed back, taking him, all of him. He loomed over me, big, strong, in complete control, except of his expression. That told a wildly different tale than his taut muscles and practiced movements. His steely eyes were darker than ever, unyielding in our eye contact. His mouth was parted, moving like he wanted to say something, but working like hell to keep it inside. Reaching back, I slid my hand over his and up his arm, squeezing. You're gonna make me come again, Santy. You feel amazing. The cords in his neck strained. He grunted, thrust. I need more. I need to go hard. But you gotta tell me if you don't want that. Instead of answering with words, I bent farther, spread my legs wider, letting him drive deeper. Our skin slapped, water went flying. My grappling hands knocked the mini shampoo bottle from its shelf. Our easy, sweet lovemaking turned wild and desperate, exactly what I needed from him, even if I hadn't known it. With his fingers circling my clit, I came unraveled. A coil of hurt deep in my belly broke free. Santiago rode my orgasm, kept thrusting even as I tightened around him. His fingers clutched at my hip and the back of my hair, guiding me onto his cock again and again until he roared my name, spilling everything inside me, just like I wanted.
Thanks for that, Jack.
Yeah.
Little hot shower sex, little action. It's kind of nice.
Kind of nice.
Sounds slippery.
It does sound very slippery. Can't confirm. So
Can you confirm?
Don't fall over, guys.
make sure not to do that. So we've come to the rating portion of the game. I think we should rate it on pot brownies, but
Oh, I was thinking Santa's.
well, there's only one Santa and the tree meaning of Christmas. But I want to take your recommendation on how many pot brownies is too many pot brownies.
I mean,
What?
it depends on who's making them and what your
So-
tolerance is.
Jacqueline, how many pot brownies is too many pot brownies?
A 3.
Okay, so we're going to rate this on 3 pot brownies. And you can have like partial bites. I'll allow it because, I mean, let's be fair, it's a brownie.
Plus,
And
I'm
it's a
going to
pot
do that
brownie.
anyway.
Yeah, well, Jack's going to do that anyway. Yeah, you're right, Ashton. It's a pot brownie. You got to like be careful.
Yes, you do. Otherwise,
I'm
you'll
gonna-
end up vomiting at the fucking Cineplex.
Jesus, this got real personal real quick.
What is happening?
So in that instance, Ash, I think you get to go first since you just spilled your guts about that.
Since you just admitted
Literally.
to a bad pot brownie experience, you get to go first.
Yeah, how many pot brownies do you feel about this book?
When it's a low number, it makes it more difficult for me to rate it.
I said you can have
Um,
partials, so
1/32th of a brownie.
32nd of a brownie, but yeah.
132.
Sounds like Jacqueline had a couple 32s of a brownie.
How many nibbles did you have, Jack? I don't know. Like a 1.72.
Keep saying numbers. This is fun.
Start going with
Pie? No.
Pi r squared.
I don't know, like one brownie and 2/3 another brownie. One,
Okay, so like
yeah.
just over half. So just over 50%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was what it was. Like once I knew what I was getting into and like you kind of get a feel for it, it didn't disappoint in that capacity. It leaned really heavily on tropes and it leaned really heavily on cliches. And it worked. It's just that also doesn't give a book that is worthy of a 3 or a higher than a 75% in my books. It didn't have that like solid wow factor. It was just like, oh, this is a nice read. I'll probably read the other ones just because when I'm looking for a book that's comfortable, I guess is the thing. Fucking miscommunication and
Oh my god, I
misunderstanding.
knew it. I knew it in my heart. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, look,
It is the worst trope. It's the worst.
well,
You got to
it's
do it
hard
so
to do right.
so yeah. You got to do it so right.
It
And I'm pretty
is
sure
a
this-
pretty terrible trope. It's
Yeah,
like,
look,
why didn't you just think? Would he have actually said that? No.
well,
So maybe ask
and the thing-
about it before you fuck off.
the thing of it is too is you
can
get
fuck
these
off,
like
actually.
you get these situations.
Explain it
that-
and fuck off.
Explain it
Explain
and,
it and fuck off.
I like that.
You get these situations that like as an adult reading a book about adults, I expect relatively adult decision making and understanding and communication skills, but in some or a lot of cases with the miscommunication trope, you end up in this like very junior high school kind of like, if you had just asked a question or like paused for 30 seconds, because some of it at times or sometimes it is just that it's like, pump the brakes there, Moses. You know,
This isn't Moses' book though.
Moses is the book, so it's
there,
not.
Moses.
But you know what I mean? Like it just it
Stop
doesn't
burning
it
the
doesn't.
Red Sea, Moses.
Moses is a character in the book.
Yeah.
It doesn't it takes you out of that feeling of like reading about adults. And if I wanted to read about teenagers, I'd read about fucking teenagers. It served what I expected it to serve. Like it's kind of like when you go, to McDonald's, right? And like you know what you're getting for the most part. You know it's not gonna be a 5-course meal, but like sometimes you just want a Big Mac.
I mean, it's very funny because as I went through the exercise of wanting to defend the miscommunication thing in that, like, okay, we set her up as like kind of a flighty character. She's been in this situation before, and just like, and at the end of the day, I always come back to like, Santiago is such a fucking asshole, and it's his fault, and it's like I can't justify the miscommunication at all at the end of the day. And so I'm giving it a 2 out of a 3, only because like and the only reason it gets a 2 is because I love Maeve as a character. I loved everything about her backstory, and she was this perfect Southern Belle kind of upbringing with this like rock star heart that she went out of her way to kind of curate, unbeknownst to her parents. And I'm just like, I love her as a character so much, and I want to be here when I grow up. And badass female drummers for life. And there's a whole bunch of like I skipped over a lot of stuff that Julia Wolf put in this book about like female drummers and female representation in like the rock and roll and metal sphere too. But there's like a lot of nice little includes in there, and
a lot of references.
There's a ton of references, and it's just like her love for the band Hole is amazing, and just like there's so many like things in there that like made my little metal heart happy, and that was mostly the reason I picked the book against like a couple other choices that I had that were just like they went almost too far into the rock and roll sphere of what you would expect with the tropes in a rock and roll book, specifically of like the drug abuse and like the rehab stuff, and just like it always comes back to like the drugs and the partying and all that jazz, and just like it's a lot of heavy shit sometimes. And so I read a bunch of books that went too far in that direction that I was like, I don't know. I don't like getting into like the super heavy substance abuse stuff a lot for a whole myriad of reasons. And it also a lot detracts from like the kind of romance aspect that I think we're getting at in a lot of ways too. Yeah, I don't know. It just like some of them didn't feel right. So I was just like, this one is like, to your point, Ash, fucking safe. It's a very safe read. There's nothing, I don't know, there's nothing groundbreaking here. There's nothing really offensive. There's nothing to get super upset about apart from the miscommunication trope. Like, it is just kind of a safe book. And and I really honest to goodness think that I wanted to like it so much more, which is why I read into it so much heavier than I would normally in this kind of book. So, you know, it was a little self-serving, I think, to a point of why I picked it, but it was fine. Like, it wasn't a stellar book, but yeah, I just wanted to do a Rockstar book, and this one, like, I love Masuga, and I was like, that's perfect. This is it. This is the one. So
the minute you told me about it, I was like, that's the book we're going to be doing, because it has a female drummer, and Rachel's going to be all about that.
Yeah, I know. It's like, oh, I love female drummer books. So good.
Yeah, you're like, we're going to do this one. I'm like, shocker.
Yeah, are you shocked? I was shocked.
I was not.
Jack, do you have any pot brownie style feelings about this book that you'd like to share with us?
Okay, first of all, why are we rating it out of pot brownies?
Because she got high on them in Amsterdam.
Right. Okay. Forgot about that.
And waved at prostitutes. So you could include that in your rating if you like.
Right. Well, I feel like I would love to give it a 3.141, 592, 653, 59. Now,
that's, yeah.
I don't remember why we were talking about pie, but I seemed very committed.
Pecan pie.
Very committed to this like joke because it's like up on my phone, so I felt like I should honor.
You opened it.
Honor past.
You want to honor the pie? You can do 2 pie if no. I was gonna say pie or squared. No. Damn. There's no reduction of pie typically.
Why are we making this more complicated than it needs to be?
Because Jacqueline got on a math joke and now we have to do it.
Oh, that's why I don't understand it. Numbers.
Ashton, we're trying to support our friend is what's going on.
Oh, you guys are so nice. Jacqueline got on a math joke and now we're trying to... Oh, okay, yeah.
Trying to make it work.
I'm not sure. I don't know how we make it work. I'm sure it's up there somewhere.
You could do half pie, I guess.
Never to be seen again.
Half pie.
There's no reason to use half pie, but you can.
I was originally thinking 1.31415915926. So maybe I'll go with that.
Okay, that's reasonable. Do you want to justify any of that?
Well, I did like the hooker part. Prostitutes. I love hookers. Oh my god.
I heart hookers. Is that a rugby jersey? What's up?
Not the baking. She likes the hookers.
Baby.
And not the hookers. She means the position in rugby.
Baking.
Rug hookers.
Rug hookers.
Oh.
Thanks, Jack.
All right.
Moving along.
How did you feel about the part you had to read?
It was kind of interesting.
It wasn't too I will say as a spicy romance book, there were probably 5 major scenes or something in the book, but they weren't as involved, I'll say, as a lot of the stuff we read. So again, very safe, just a safe book.
I feel like maybe I'm just saying this because you brought it up a few times, but like it almost seems to hit on the she doesn't have a perfect body, she's self-conscious, blah blah blah, like just too much, like it's being too obvious about it. Does that make sense?
I will say, Jack, that I specifically called out those parts in the book. It doesn't come up as much as you think it does.
Okay.
But
It's
when
not
it does
leaned on.
when it does come up in the book, yeah, it's definitely not leaned on as like a crutch or something, but
Yeah.
it is certainly a theme in the book, is what I'll say.
It's not a theme that's done poorly either, which you can sometimes get with plus-sized rap.
You sure do. Yeah.
Like it was done in such a way that I wasn't like, oh fuck, here we go again, gonna mention it. How many times do we have to mention this now? Oh yeah, you know.
Well, it's interesting because it was also tied in with this like it was tied in kind of perfectly with this person who she wanted to be, or this person she was hiding. And so when she tells Santiago about like, I won't be anyone's secret, I will like be front and center, it's kind of taking ownership in two different ways. It's one of like the plus size rep, but it's also her like owning who she is as a person. And because like when she dated like Drew or whatever in Hollywood, it was kind of like, was he hiding her because she was like a cool drummer person? Probably not. He was probably hiding her because she was plus size. Because he's this like super stunning skinny model type actor, and like those two people don't go together in Hollywood typically. And so that is like me reading into it. They didn't actually say anything along those lines. So like I think there's like, again, I'm giving the book way more justice than it deserves, I think, in this kind of notion. But it comes up in those kind of ways too, where it's kind of it's tied into like other stuff. And as a plus size person, I'm probably reading into it as such too. So I don't know. Do with that information what you will.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
You picking up what she put down?
I think I picked it up.
Thanks for picking it up, Jack.
Yeah.
Gold star.
Thank you.
So speaking of gold stars, the next time we are back, we are reading a book from, this is our first motorcycle club book that I specifically was like, we need to do a motorcycle club book because it's such a big part of like the romance sphere that we haven't talked about yet. And so we're reading Nyx by Serena Ackroyd. And you can get that on the Kindle Unlimited. I actually couldn't get a physical copy of it because I think it's getting recovered right now. And so I wasn't able to buy that online, but I'll keep looking. But yeah, so that's Nyx by Serena Ackroyd. And we'll talk about, it's a motorcycle club book. So that comes with its own kind of unique sets of tropes. So be careful when you're picking that book up to read ahead and see what those are. That's all I got for this episode, guys. Thanks for sticking in there and listen to me talk about Masuga for a while. I really appreciate that you guys are supporting my interests.
I love
No
it.
problem, Voldemort.
Well, thanks for joining me, guys, and we'll see you next time on this Queens of Spice podcast. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Queens of Spice podcast. You'll find us on Instagram and Twitter at Queens of Spice. Or if you want to send us an email, you can reach us at queensofspice@gmail.com.